So holiday makers are continuing to head back home from places like Limpopo in the country. That province experienced several fatal road crashes during the festive season. In fact, a massive roadblock is now underway at Polokwane weighbridge. That's where taxis are being assessed for their roadworthiness. Newzroom Afrika's Pelane Phakgadi is on the ground for us. He's watching this story and joins us now live. And Pelane, with the time that you've been able to monitor this roadblock, how effective do you reckon it actually is?
Well, for the fact that they are taking great caution on looking at the taxis. The taxis are the transport, of course, in the province, and even across the country. We are using them quite regularly. 15 people per single taxi. They have been assessing their roadworthiness because you've realized that along the N1 route, the major route leading into Polokwane, there's been massive congestion throughout December, and there has been fatal crashes. And here in this particular province, while we wait to see the figures, the fatalities have just been just staggering across the N1. Almost each and every single day, you were hearing about 6 people having died on just a stretch of a road, about 50 kilometers between Polokwane and as well as Nail Plaza. That is the toll gate, and including Kranskop as well. Quite fatalities, hurtful. And when we're looking at those, some of them involved taxis, and the taxis, some of them really not roadworthy. These particular taxis just behind me, I'm just going to ask Leander to show you, has been asked to stop here because it is overloaded, and the driver there is being asked some really difficult questions as to why he left, seemingly with a registration of Gauteng, why he left Gauteng, if at all, to driving into the province with some sort of an overload. I'm just going to bring in Thabiso Ndebele. He's the executive director for RTMC, and maybe he can just give us an indication how effective this particular roadblock has been Ayanda this morning in itself. Thabiso?
Good morning. I think this morning has been a good activation, a K78 roadblock activation, focusing on seatbelt adherence, focusing on roadworthiness of the vehicles. We have, I think, by 9:30 impounded over 10 taxis due to roadworthiness issues. Some were overloading, which is something we obviously are against from a road safety perspective. So in terms of this morning's operations, I think we have found our targets and we are dealing with them accordingly.
Across the whole festive season, how has compliance been really? I mean, we've seen fatal crashes along the N1, something that a question we should continue to put to the transport minister about what they're going to be doing about that particular road. But how has compliance been across not only the province but the country as a large?
So since the 1st of December, with the festive season, there's 2 key things that we have observed. First one is the slightly increased volumes of traffic, and I think that's got to do with the lift or the current levels of COVID-19 and the curfew. It didn't help from a road safety perspective that the curfew hours were lifted because we saw more volumes during the night. The second one is the impatience of the drivers themselves. So when one has a head-on collision, it means that one is in another one's lane. And it could be impatience in terms of overtaking on a solid line, and so forth. So from that perspective, the compliance hasn't been that great, and the result is, of course, the road crash fatalities that we have seen.
Yeah, just the last one before I let you go. I mean, focusing on taxis here, I've seen. Do you think it's something that should remain consistent so that, I mean, we've seen a few accidents where taxis are involved, and once there is a crash, a lot of people are either injured or some, unfortunately, become fatalities?
I think the key thing we have to acknowledge with the taxis is that they are a mass transporter. And if there's something that goes wrong, of course, it's got a severe impact. A more number of people are actually die or get injured. So yes, we will continue with the operations for public transport. Yes, we will be more stringent in terms of the vehicle roadworthiness of these vehicles, all the way from the tires to the cracked windscreens and so forth. And this is in a bid, of course, to save lives.
Definitely, Thabiso Ndebele, the director for RTMC. Yes, taxis, about 10 we are told, have currently been impounded, and that is due to non-compliance. And as Tavis has put it, taxis are really mass carriers, mass transporters, and when there is something wrong, it becomes a devastating kind of a situation. So there will be a continued focus on compliance as far as the taxi industry is concerned. But it goes beyond that. We've seen roadblocks across the country. In the city of Polokwane, there's been quite a consistent kind of visibility, maybe to do with the ANC celebrations. Of course, overnight we've seen that quite a number of parties were going on until the early hours of this morning. And driving around the town at that particular night, it was just you were able to see the visibility of the road traffic authorities to try and ensure that since the curfew has been lifted, people at least are adhering to regulations of the road.
Phakgadi, live to us there from Polokwane in Limpopo. Pelane, thanks very much indeed.